Man, with all the things that school had to offer, there was only one thing I actually cared about. School field trips. Now, don't get it twisted. With school field trips, you can never really tell what would happen with them. Like, for example, some of them can be kind of mid, or they could be really good and bad. But let's not forget the fact that sometimes these teachers were really cooking, bro, because I have never seen a teacher make such a well-organized seating chart, and nothing was better than being with your homie on the same bus route. Like, something about that was just so perfect. But there was nothing more chaotic than the drive to the field trip destination, bro, because just keep in mind that with all the teachers and chaperones and the absolute goofies that were us snotty kids on the bus, there was bound to be some tomfoolery going down in that little rectangular prism with wheels, bro. It always looked like a monkey house and was always bound to end in a fight. But once we get past all that, we would finally arrive at our destination, which was always the most basic places like a zoo, or a museum, or a science center. Alright, I'm done. But let's keep it simple and focus on a museum instead, just for the video. So once the bus driver finally parks in front of said destination, they would grab us students and start separating us into our different groups. And for some reason, there was always those kids from the same school district, and every time they pulled up, it was always on site, bro. But walking into the museum, bro, it always shocked me how schools were able to convince different trip places to let us snotty kids around literal artifacts, bro, and still expect us not to break something. So now these kids have the field trip tour guide looking like Jackie Chan at the end of Rush Hour 1, bro. But for some reason, there was always that one canon event at every school field trip. Like, for example, there's always that one kid that would just wander away from the group and just start vibing by themselves, or if they're on that kind of timing, just get lost altogether, bro. And usually you will find these lost children hiding behind a wall or crying under a tree. And speaking of trees, for some reason we would always have our lunch here. And for some reason, this would always start out nice and enjoyable, and then it would completely turn into a full-blown competition just to see who in the entire group has the best snacks. So the guy with the brown sack lunch was immediately out of this game, and it would come down to the guy who brought either the Lunchables or the guy who brought a whole bag of party-sized chips. And after we get past all the eating and competition between all the peers, we would return back to the field trip, which always made me so mad because it felt like all the fun was being stripped away from me, bro. So once that clock hit 12 o'clock, we would all pack up our stuff and all of our humans into a nice comfortable bus. But lucky for us students, the fun didn't end there, because when we got back to school, our teacher would be very nice and put on some Inside Out, and this was already great enough on its own. But then she would grab some Capri Suns and pass them around while having another student pass out the chips. And bro, just looking around and seeing everybody in my class all comfy watching one of the best movies ever, it would remind me that field trips aren't that bad at all, bro. And if you watch this entire video, go ahead and like and sub, bro. It'll really help me out. And with all that being said,